And we're about to get into the guy who defeated Rafer Johnson in the 1956 Olympic decathlon. His name was Milt Campbell.
Well, Wes, Milt Campbell can hardly be considered forgotten because he was hardly ever remembered in the first place, through no fault of his own, because he was an interesting and trailblazing athlete.
Yeah, Campbell was on GSL in 1981 and inspired everyone who worked on the show and those who were lucky enough to watch the episode.
I had a great ability to be able to visualize that which I wanted to do. Muhammad Ali wanted to be the most popular human being on the face of the earth. Boxing became the vehicle for that. So to become the world's greatest athlete, the decathlon becomes the vehicle for that.
Well, before Campbell set his sights on the Olympics, he was a high school star in not only track, but football and swimming. At the urging of his coach, he committed to the decathlon, where at the age of 18, he made the Olympic team and earned a silver medal in the decathlon.
When he came home from the Olympics, everyone was ecstatic, except for, you guessed it, Milt. He was determined to win gold, and nothing short of that would satisfy him.
Which he did, besting Rafer Johnson at the Melbourne Games.
The next year, Campbell was drafted to play professional football for the Cleveland Browns. He got to play behind a guy who I don't know if you recognize him, Jim Brown?
Yes, that name does sound familiar to me. And yeah, Campbell was a fullback, and he never did have much of an NFL career. He ran for a total of 23 yards on 7 carries, and he was working right next to Jim Brown.
That's Jim Brown, man. But look, the guy was obviously a great athlete and had great speed, too. See, the speed is the kicker. He was a world-class 110-meter hurdler, one of the events that's in the decathlon. We've talked about that before. So you'd think he would have the goods, Murph.
Yeah, but according to Campbell, the story goes like this. The owner of the Browns was a guy named Paul Brown. Brown found out that Milt had gotten married, not just to a woman, but a white woman. Now, this is 1957, Wes, so it was frowned upon by society and by Paul Brown. He brought Campbell into his office and he asked him why he did such a thing, to which Campbell replied, quote, "I got married for the same reason you got married, I presume," end quote. He went on to tell Brown to mind his own business, and the next day Campbell received a letter stating that his services for the Browns was no longer needed.
Wow. Like, for real? That's what we're doing? Brutal.
Yeah, and it was cruel, honestly. It seemed like he was getting a raw deal everywhere he turned. You know, after he won the decathlon in '56, the first black man to do it, Wheaties didn't call, that's for sure.
Man, but this guy was nothing if not resilient. After his numerous disappointments, he took up judo and became a world-class athlete at that too. So much so that he was set to enter the Olympics in judo in 1972. However, his quest was denied by the Olympic Committee for, guess what, this lovely reason. They decided that his professional career, you know, the one that gave him all of 23 yards, well, guess what? That prohibited him from competing in the Olympics. Only amateurs can compete in the Olympics.
Yeah, it seemed like Milt Campbell was consistently thwarted in all of his ambitions, but it didn't dampen his spirits. Later in his life, he became a motivational speaker.
I have a poem which I stuck with for all the years that I can remember. It simply goes that if you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win and you think you can, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost, for out of this world we find success begins with a fellow's will, and that's all in a state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life's battle does not always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or later, the one who wins is the one who thinks he can. And that seems to get me through everything.